Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Rep Your Squad, week number 13 in the National Football League, as we're talking about all 32 teams in the National Football League. As we're getting down the home stretch now, man, playoff picture starting to crystallize. That back end in both conferences, a little sketchy, a lot of things up for grabs, but I think we know the teams that are going to be in the playoffs in slots 1 through 4, I think, with the exception of number 4 in the NFC. The NFC East is so bad. We talked about this. I would just prefer they allow 3 NFC West teams in and just skip over the NFC East this season. It's a ridiculous division this year. And I talked about this over a month ago, how I like when the division is much better. And it's sad. It's a sad state of affairs. Me being an NFC East aficionado and fan of a team in that division, it just is horrible to see how bad this division is this season. And they're actually talented teams in the division. The Cowboys have talent. The Eagles have talent. Eagles are really banged up, but the talent is there. And for the Eagles to lose on the road at Miami, to drop to 5-7, and the Cowboys, their loss on Thanksgiving was not a demeaning loss. They lost to a 9-3 Buffalo Bills team that a lot of people continue to sleep on. Well, wake the hell up, all right? They just won on Thanksgiving, and it was a dominant performance. Wake up. The Bills are a good football team. I seem to find myself having to explain that to Bills fans. Like, they can't even believe that they're 9-3 and that they're a credible team in the AFC conference. But believe it, you're a quality ball club, and you went to Dallas and beat a quality team in the Dallas Cowboys, although their record may not bear that out at 6-6. That's a quality win on the road, and you should be very pleased with your performance in that ball game. And I think that woke some people up, including the people over at NBC, because now, because of all of what they've done this season, the Steelers and Bills game in 2 weeks has been flexed into Sunday Night Football. So there you have it. People are taking notice. Bills deserve it. And I can't wait to see my man White Cam on full display. You know how big of a Josh Allen fan I am and have been. And I'm nothing short of elated to see what he's doing. And to all the naysayers out there that thought this guy couldn't get it done, take that. So this is a week that was just zany. A lot of craziness went on this week. You had the Dolphins beating the Eagles, the Redskins beating the Panthers. Panthers effectively have been eliminated from playoff contention. Not mathematically, but at 5-7, trending in the wrong direction and losing to the likes of the Falcons and the Redskins in 2 of their last 3 games. It's pretty safe to say that they're dead now and out of playoff contention. And that may bode very poorly and spell the end of the line for Ron Rivera in Carolina. It's not looking too good, and their owner is starting to get very antsy. I could see Ron Rivera being on the outs at the end of this season. You also had Drew Lock getting his first start in Denver as they were able to win on a very controversial call versus the Chargers, 23-20. So they get a win there. Both of those teams are 4-8. Phillip Rivers' time in Los Angeles may be coming to an end this season as well. So we could be seeing the changing of the guard there. To whom? Is Tyrod Taylor really your answer? I don't really know what they're going to do there, but we'll see. They got a whole offseason to kind of figure that thing out. You also had another upset victory, the Bengals getting their first win of the season over the Jets. I mean, it's hard to call that an upset. I saw it coming. I predicted it. I said it was going to happen. But when you're 0-11, I guess you call it an upset. You haven't won a game. But the Jets were 4-7 themselves. It's not like they were world beaters. So, but they got their first win of the season. Good for them. Zach Taylor gets his first win as an NFL head coach. Good for him as well. In other games, obviously the biggest game of the day was 49ers at Ravens. That was a slugfest. I talked about that. I actually did a separate video for that game because it was so good and it was such a big, impactful game. I felt the need to go and talk about that one off on its own. But big win for the Ravens. But if you're the 49ers, and I said this yesterday, you have nothing to be ashamed of. I thought you went to Baltimore in a rainstorm and showed well. And I think they put everyone else on notice that this is a team that can get it done. And I'm anxious to see them go to New Orleans next week. I really think they're going to go into New Orleans and win that football game. I really, truly believe that they're going to go into New Orleans, especially if the Saints are playing the way that they've been playing over the last 3 weeks or so. The 49ers will go in there and stomp a mud hole in them. So that will be interesting. Speaking of the Saints, they got it done on Thanksgiving over the Atlanta Falcons in a rematch game. But for as impressive as they've been throughout the course of the season, they haven't been as impressive of late. And they allowed the Falcons to hang around in a game they probably should have blown them out in. Actually was a little disturbed at how close that game ended up being. And Falcons had opportunities. They had ample opportunities in that ball game. But when you're a 3-9 ball club, you don't know what to do with those opportunities. And so the Saints get the win 26-18 in that game. And the final Thanksgiving game, or the first of the day, was the Lions hosting the Bears. David Blau getting his first career NFL start and actually playing solid football for the Lions, giving them a chance. I thought he made some throws late in that game that should have given them an opportunity. Danny Amendola letting one go over his head, kind of misjudging and timing that football. But the defense continues to be the story in Detroit. They're just not good enough on that side of the football. Mitchell Trubisky with a monster drive late in that game, couple of big throws to Miller, who is all of a sudden emerging as a big target. Anthony Miller, 9 catches for 140 yards in that game as the Lions fall at home to the Bears in that contest. And don't look now, but the Bears have scratched and clawed their way back to 500 at 6-6. It's not too late. They got a massive showdown of 2 6-6 teams on Thursday Night Football this week. If they can get that win, all of a sudden, if the Minnesota Vikings lose on Monday night and they drop to 8-4, they're right there in the thick of things with yet another matchup versus those same Vikings later on in the season. So don't count the Bears out just yet. We'll see what they're able to do down the stretch as they got a big win on Thanksgiving Day. You look elsewhere, Steelers beat the the Browns in a matchup that was hyped up, as, 2 weeks ago they had the massacre there in Cleveland and the brawl, but I knew there wasn't going to be any fireworks from that standpoint. I was happy to see Devlin Hodges get the start, and Duck Hodges went out, got the job done. It wasn't pretty, but most importantly, it was gritty, and it was a dub. They win that football game. After falling behind 10-0, they run off 20 unanswered points, win that football game 20-13 over the Cleveland Browns as they go to 7-5. And don't look now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are your 6th seed in the AFC playoffs. This is a masterful job being done by Mike Tomlin right now. By far and away, to me, his best coaching job. And I've been thoroughly impressed with what he's been able to do this season. I cannot believe that he has this team with all the injuries, with all of the things that they've had going on. No Antonio Brown, no longer on the roster. Ben Roethlisberger has been out since week 2. No Le'Veon Bell. None of the guys that you've come to know and love in Pittsburgh. And yet, and he's had a bunch of injuries. James Conner has been in and out of the lineup with injuries. They just got back a couple of their running backs. They seem to be interchanging these guys in and out of the lineup with injuries. Their best receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, has been out the last couple of weeks. The guy that was supposed to step in for Antonio Brown as a rookie, he's been banged up, and yet they still find ways to win games. What he's done with that defense, stupid impressive. I've really been pleased with what I've seen from him. And anybody that thought he was on his way out, you're sadly mistaken, as the Steelers are now 7-5 and in the postseason. And for the Browns, they're pretty much dead after that loss. I told you they weren't going to sweep that division. They lose the game. They're now 5-7. And I think Freddie Kitchens may ultimately be fired. He had on a shirt that said Pittsburgh, blame Pittsburgh, or Pittsburgh did it, or whatever. He's an idiot. He's going to get fired. You're on live with your man, Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, you are speaking with JCamman99.
What's going on, JCam, man? Rep your squad.
All right, so your long-awaited positive Bills talk is finally coming for me.
All right. Been waiting for this.
Primarily because the numbers don't lie. We're 9-3. Josh Allen has looked better than I've ever expected him to look. He doesn't take sacks. His accuracy is amazing. Sean McDermott's basically phoned in 2 out of 3 great seasons, and the Bills have a 94% chance right now to make the playoffs.
The fact that you're still looking at the percentages tells me you're not 100% sold that you're going to get it. I understand the plight of a Bills fan because I, as a Redskin fan, have been down that road many a times. But you have to realize you're making the postseason this year, J-Cam, man. And you have a good team. And I told you this 3 weeks ago. You're going to be fine. And I told you that Josh Allen is the real deal. And it's amazing because there's still some fans out there that don't believe in Josh Allen. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I've loved Josh Allen since he was at Wyoming. I thought he was going to be the best quarterback of that draft class. I am not disappointed in what I've gotten from him. And even last year, you could see flashes, and he's starting to put it all together. And I told you, when you win games in this league, you build confidence. He's building confidence. To me, that game against Dallas might have been his best game of the season. And it wasn't great statistically, and, the passing numbers weren't gaudy, but the plays that he made throughout that game, it says winner to me. It just screams winner. And especially the quarterback sneak that almost wasn't, that was.
Right.
Like, come on, man. That's winning football right there. That's a guy that wants to win and that's going to do whatever it takes to get a win for his team. I love it.
Yeah, no, he's brought great leadership to the team. I mean, even last year when he was still struggling, like I've always, even before we drafted Josh Allen, I always said I liked hearing him in interviews. Mm-hmm. I liked the guy almost personally, even though I've obviously never met him. Yeah. But he brings that leadership mentality, which is great. I mean, for me, like you said, you're kind of saying that, like, oh, I don't believe in the team yet. It's not that. It's more so the schedule than anything. And each time I run through the schedule, realistically, in my opinion, like, we're still on the outs. This is the first time, though, I've run through it and we're still in. It's just, we're 3 games ahead of almost every team in the AFC that's challenging us. So,
but this is the thing. I want you to understand, though, is you're good. You have to stop looking at these games like they're losses. When are you going to start thinking to yourself, hey, we're good enough to beat Pittsburgh, or we're good enough to beat the Patriots? Or when are you going to start? Like, I know you watched the Patriots last night. You telling me you're not good enough to beat them?
No, actually, okay, look, week 4 was the first time I actually thought, wait a minute, this is not the same Patriots team. Like, Tom Brady looked normal in that game against the Bills, and we almost won. We actually almost won in week 4. Like, if Matt Barkley would have done the drive at the end, we would have actually won that game.
Or not get a punt block for a touchdown.
The Patriots are basically Voldemort without the Horcruxes. They're still a team to be reckoned with. They're 10-2, but they're definitely not the same. And so I do think we can beat the Patriots possibly in week 16. I think we can beat the Steelers, even though the move to Sunday Night Football, as much as it's respect for the Bills, it's also a cash grab for the NFL, let's face it. And it's going to be Steelers home advantage. I almost wish they hadn't moved it. But I think we can win that game for sure, yeah. I don't think we'll beat the Ravens, but I don't think anybody really expects us to beat the Ravens, honestly. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine. I'm not saying you have to win out, but you got to start looking at your team as a team that's capable of winning any game anywhere, because defense travels, and a quarterback that is unafraid travels well too. And in any given week...
How long do you think he can keep this up, though? Let me ask you that.
Like
how long do you think Josh Allen will be able to keep up the physicality of the position?
So, he's young right now. And so right now he's in do whatever it takes mode. You know, as he continues to mature as a quarterback in the pocket, seeing the field, seeing what defenses are trying to do to him, you'll see less and less of him throwing his body around, and more of him staying in the pocket and just in dicing teams from there. But right now, he's just doing whatever he sees fit. You know what I mean? Whatever he needs to do on that particular play, whether it's, scramble out of the pocket, extend. We've seen good Josh extending. We've seen bad Josh extending where he fumbles. But at the end of the day, he's going to do what he thinks is necessary for his team to win. And that's what I love about him right now. And that's what all I've ever wanted from guys like Robert Griffin III, whereas, hey, look, until you actually figure this thing out, just do what you know how to do best. it's the guys that try to, and that's why Lamar Jackson is doing as well as he's doing right now, because I was afraid when I heard him talking over the offseason, like he had that Robert Griffin III mentality of, I don't want to run. I want to stay in the pocket. I want to prove I can throw. And I'm like, dude, that will come. Just continue to do what makes you you. And all of that stuff will come. And you see he's gotten better with his accuracy.
Oh, yeah. He's doing it all this year. I mean, I haven't heard MVP candidate too much, but he should be one, honestly. I don't know. Everyone's kind of eyeing Russell Wilson for MVP, but I'd give it to Lamar, honestly, right now, because he's doing everything. Without Lamar Jackson, the Ravens aren't where they are, in my opinion, even with their defense.
Correct. And he's definitely going to win the MVP. Russ has got 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks on primetime television to stake his claim as an MVP competitor. Right now, Lamar Jackson is running away with the trophy, but he's got Monday night tonight and Sunday night football next week versus the Rams to prove that he belongs. Lamar just shredded the Rams on national television. Russ is going to have to do the same thing if he even wants to be in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, though. Like, they're both doing really well.
Somebody suggested this a while ago. I'm cool with co-MVPs.
Yeah, me too. Actually, if you remember, who was it? Steve McNair,
Yep.
Peyton Manning had it back in 2003, I think.
Yep. And I'm cool with that, man. If they said, you know what, it's hard to decide. Both of these guys have been ridiculously good this season. And they said, hey, let's make them co-MVPs. I don't think you'd find one person not good with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't argue against that at all.
Yeah, man. Hey, J-Cam, man, thanks for repping your squad. Your boys are 9-3. Celebrate, man. You're going to the postseason this year. I'm telling you. You may not say it because you don't want to jinx it. I'll tell you, and I'll say it for you. Your boys are going to the postseason, and they deserve it. You mess around, you might win the damn division. We'll talk about that a little bit later on down the line, though.
All right, sounds good. Oh, and real quick before I go, you and I are tied right now, winners and losers, but you overtook me this week. I checked the stats.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Congrats to you on that one.
Yeah, I told you I had to go out on a limb on the podcast. There were some games that I felt like, and I messed around and lost some games I shouldn't have, but you right there, man. I'm looking to try to win this thing.
Yeah, there were a lot of crazy games this week, and I was just like, oh, no. And I kept looking, I'm like, oh, crap.
Hey, J-Cam, man, be easy, man.
Yeah, you too.
All right, let's get to some comments. Phone lines are open if you didn't know. They're open, so call in if you'd like. Ali Side says, Lou, what's the deal with Carr, man, as in Derek Carr? He says, with the better offensive line, he is still struggling, shaking my head. He didn't have any weapons. Did you watch the game yesterday? At one point, they were in the third quarter, and the stat was he's got one completion to a wide receiver for 8 yards, and it wasn't the guy you expected it to be. It was Zay Jones, a guy they traded for like a month ago. Are you serious? He has nobody to throw the football to. What do you mean what's wrong with Derek Carr? If it's not Darren Waller, he has nobody. All right, the one guy that was starting to come on, and Hunter Renfrow, he got hurt. He has nobody to throw the football to. Zero. He's got tight ends and running backs. That's what's wrong with Derek Carr. You need like 3 receivers. Not 1, not 2. You need like 3 receivers in Oakland. It's ridiculous. So Tyrell Williams was bought in to be a number 2 at best. You're asking Tyrell Williams to win consistently against number 1 corners. That's not who he is. You need help, and you need it badly at the wide receiver position. DMV fan 123 says, I know. Hashtag QB wins aren't everything, but after all the angst around Haskins, he's 2-2 as a starter. This will only go further to instill confidence in him. I agree. Let's see. Going down the comment section. If you're new to the show, welcome. Make sure you subscribe to the Louie T Network. But also, if you're new to the chat, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. Big Blue Rising says, Lou, when are the Giants going to win their next game? Probably, if they're going to win another one, it's going to be against the Redskins. Outside of that, they may get one in the division, but they struggle with Philly. They can't beat the Cowboys. A matter of fact, they've already played the Cowboys twice. So if they're going to win another game, most likely it's going to be against the Redskins. Have they played the Dolphins yet? That's an opportunity. I don't think they played the Dolphins yet. That's an opportunity there too. But yikes. Yeah, you're pretty bad. Yeah. Gregory Lightbody says, it's a shame to see Terry's production get lower, and I think he's starting to realize that he won't reach his full potential with the Skins. I don't know how you can even say that. Terry just wants to win, period. He's said that numerous times, and they're winning games, or at least the last 2 weeks, that is. Let's see. Young Deck says, who do you think wins the Saints-Niners game? I already said, I think the 49ers go in there and win that game. I feel pretty confident that they can run the football against the Saints because I haven't seen a team really yet stop the 49ers from running the football. And then I think that secondary that was so good early on in the season, they've been a little bit lax of late. Now, getting Marshawn Lattimore back last week helped tremendously. So I do think that helps a little bit. Also, the pass rush has been really good this season. They were dominant on Thursday night. Now, again, it was against the Falcons. Their offensive line is in tatters and shambles. But you still got to dominate the guys in front of you, and they did that. Will they be able to get to Jimmy G consistently in that game is the question, because I don't think they're going to be able to stop the run consistently. Can they keep tabs also on George Kittle? The Ravens did a tremendous job. I get it. It was a monsoon, but they did a tremendous job of limiting George Kittle's production. I surmise that in the dome, where the elements aren't going to be a factor, George Kittle is going to look to go bonkers. And that defense is no joke. And I think we've seen teams get to Breeze and fluster him like Atlanta did. I could see the 49ers going into New Orleans and winning that game. I really could. Anyway, Reby. What's up, Reby? Where you been at, girl? Reby says, what up, Lou? No matter what, I'm going to rep my squad, Eagles, baby. He says, rolling eyes, shaking my head. Even though they're on some BS. Thank God the Cowgirls are too. You're right. Because you guys are straight tripping, yet you look at your schedule, and we said this a week ago because you had the Dolphins coming up, and you blew that opportunity, but still, you look up at the schedule, you got the Giants, you got the Redskins, you got the Cowboys again. You got some opportunities, and I think you got the Giants again. So you got some opportunities to do some damage against some bad football teams in what is the worst division in all of football. If you can't take care of this back end of your schedule, you don't need to go anywhere but home. So, yeah, your boys are tripping. And honestly, I don't know what the problem is other than the injuries. The injuries have been a massive setback for this team. But then you get guys back this week. You had Alshon Jeffrey, never, ever trust a man with 2 first names back. You got the guy you try to blame everything on when stuff doesn't go right. Nelson Aguilar back. You scored 31 points, which has been your problem the last couple of weeks. Defense has been killing it. No offense. You get offense, and now the defense is atrocious. And special teams chipping in, giving up a fake field goal for a touchdown. And you give up 37 and you lose. I don't really know what to make of the Eagles. And I hear fans are actually blaming Carson Wentz for this. I don't really know what's going on with the Eagles. Anyway, Believers Talk says, go live just for me, you shouldn't have. Let's go, Bills. That's my man Joey Shop over there at Believers Talk. Remember, he was the guy that said Bills 13-3 before the season started, and we all mocked him. We laughed at him. We pointed fingers at him. Who's laughing now? Now, they're not going 13-3, but they could go 12-4. They could go 11-5. I think it's more realistic that they go 11-5, than anything else. And who saw that coming? When we laughed at his 13-3, we were laughing because we thought more like 7-9, 6-10, not 11-5. Okay? Anyway, Big John wants to know what is my Cash App. It is money sign. I'm going to put it down in the comment section. But it is money sign Louie T Network. So there's my Cash App. If you want to make a donation, by all means, please do. Thank you very much. If you want to give a super chat, all of them, greatly appreciated. Anything you give is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Isaiah Ford says, Bengals finally won their first game. Glad we didn't go 0-16. I told you that you were going to win. Remember last week? I said it on the podcast. I also said it on the Sunday night game. I also said it on the Redskins show that I did last week that the Bengals were going to win versus the Jets. I said it at every opportunity that I got. You're going to beat the Jets. And Zach Taylor's no fool. He knew he could not withstand 0-16. Because if he wanted to continue to lose games, he would have just kept the rookie out there. But he realized, look, man, I got to save my damn job. I got to be around to be able to see this thing through. And if I want to do that, I got to win some games. And I told you from the jump, Andy wasn't the issue. But I understood why they were doing what they were doing and just should have did it sooner. So that maybe if you needed to, you could have moved Andy Dalton and got something for him. But good thing you didn't, because you might not have won any games. Andy steps back in the lineup. You beat the Jets. All is well in Cincinnati, at least for a week. And that may not be the end of your winning this season. All of the bad teams, and I've said this before, all of the bad teams this season have won in twos. The Jets had a 3-game winning streak, but they won 2 games in a row before they won 3 games in a row. The Falcons won 2 games in a row. The Dolphins won 2 games in a row. The Redskins won 2 games in a row. And the Giants won 2 games in a row. So theoretically, it should be your turn to win 2 games in a row. Can you do it? We'll see. Anyway, moving right along. G. Stokes says, what do you think our chances are next week? If you're a Redskins fan and your we is as in skins, very low. I will say this. These Packers, much like the Patriots, aren't the same Packers that we've come to know and love. The Giants were hanging tough with those boys for 3.5 quarters or so before the wheels fell off. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but I'm not saying that they should just blow us out either. I don't anticipate us winning that game, though. I don't like our chances. Michael Thompson says, I have seen Daniel Jones' worst game of the season, but I still believe in him. But hey, at least we can still get Chase Young. That's the prize. If you're going to stink, there needs to be at least a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And right now, for the stinking ass teams, if you're Cincinnati, you got a choice. Do I take the quarterback or do I take the generational talent as a pass rusher? If I'm a team, quarterback always trumps everything else. Got to take the quarterback, but it's going to be a hell of a discussion because Chase Young looks like a one-of-a-kind type of specimen as a pass rusher. Ruben C says, the Skins win 2 games. Could we beat the Packers? I don't see it happening. I really don't. Extra Squaw says, how many games do you think we're going to win for the rest of the season, and how would that affect the decision on Bruce Allen? I talked about it on the Redskins Nightly News, so if you're looking for that assessment, you can go there in terms of Bruce Allen and what winning and the effect of that will have on his tenure as Redskins team president. But as far as how many games do we win, I see us beating maybe the Giants, and that's about it. You know, but with the way this division has played out and with how badly and poorly the Cowboys and Eagles have both played, they're not invincible. Those are winnable football games, but I'm going to just play it close to the vest and say that we got one more win in us, and that would probably be against the Giants if we do win another game this season. Stephen Ellis says, Lou, you think if Kirk balls tonight and the Vikes win, he should be talked about for MVP? As it sits now, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this season. Yes. Kirk's not going to be in the discussion for MVP. You know, you may hear his name in passing in that conversation, but because of what Lamar Jackson is doing this season, and even now, this is the thing. If, let's say the Vikings win this game, and it's not going to happen, but let's say the Vikings, hypothetically, win this game 38-13, Kirk goes bananas, and Russell Wilson looks awful, then maybe, and let's say Kirk throws 4 touchdown passes, 347 yards, only 3 incompletions, and he just absolutely wipes the floor with the Seahawks defense on the road, on primetime television, which is not going to happen. Well, let's just say it does. Then maybe you'll start hearing Kirk's name a little bit more prevalent in that discussion, but no one's topping Lamar Jackson. The only guy that has a shot is the guy playing tonight, but it's not Kirk Cousins. Of course, I'm talking about Russell Wilson. Dangerous Russell Wilson. He's got 2 weeks on primetime television to stake his claim. All right? Monday night tonight, and then next week on Sunday Night Football versus the Rams, we watch Lamar absolutely obliterate those boys on a Monday night in L.A. Russ has got to do the same thing in order for us to think to ourselves, damn, Russ deserves a piece of this hardware. He deserves a piece of this trophy. He's got to do it. And it starts tonight, though. Got to do it against the Vikings first. Gregory Lightbody says, Skins need a tight end most likely in free agency, Hunter Henry or Austin Hooper. I don't see either one of those guys leaving their current teams, but the Redskins definitely need a tight end. That is for certain. Austin Hooper, if the Falcons were going to allow him to walk, they would have traded him because he was an asset at the trade deadline. Them keeping him tells me they have no intentions of letting him walk. And worse, push come to shove, you franchise tag Austin Hooper because the tight end number isn't that high. So if you think you can't work something out with Austin Hooper and you want him back, you just slap the franchise tag on him and you keep negotiating with him. So out of those two guys, Hunter Henry would be the one that would be most likely available. But guess what? If you're a Redskins fan, the last thing you want to see the Redskins go after is a guy that's been injury prone throughout his career. We've got enough of those guys on the roster. We do not need to add yet another one to the team. Eddie Rodriguez says, opinions on whether or not the Raiders should look to draft a new QB. I personally don't dislike Carr, but it's a heavy topic of discussion as of late. So let's get into the Derek Carr discussion, shall we? Because it was started earlier, and I think I said everything I needed to say earlier in the show when I talked about the fact that he has no receivers to throw to. Literally, Darren Waller and the running backs out of the backfield, whether it's Jalen Richard or it's DeAndre Washington or Josh Jacobs, those are the four guys that he trusts right now. We were in the third quarter of the game yesterday, and he had one completion to a receiver, and it was Zay Jones for 8 yards. The receiving core of the Raiders is absolutely horrid. That's why they wanted Antonio Brown to work so badly in Oakland, because Tyrell Williams was brought to be a number 2. He wasn't brought there to be a number 1. And then Hunter Renfrow started to play well, and then he got injured. So you have nothing at receiver right now. It's all bad. So I understand that you would love to see Derek Carr play a little bit better. How about you give him some targets to throw the football to before you try to cast him aside? And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Eddie. But I know a lot of Raiders fans are sick of Derek Carr. And I get it. There's been times when Derek hasn't played good enough. But Derek is fine, especially in John Gruden's system. And you got to also know this, if you're a Raiders fan. John Gruden does not like young quarterbacks. Never has, never will. That's not his thing. He does not have the patience to groom a young quarterback. He'd much rather go to the quarterback scrap heap and start using up guys on that wavelength. All right? He'd much rather go get a Jameis Winston. He'd much rather go get a Marcus Mariota. He'd much rather go after a Phillip Rivers or one of those guys that will be available this offseason. All right? I talked about the free agency crop of quarterbacks. There are going to be plenty of them available. Teddy Bridgewater is another guy that will be available. He'd much rather go get one of those guys to run his offense than draft a young QB. So if you think Derek Carr is going anywhere, he's not. And you need to get him some weapons. That's number 2. So that's what I think of Derek Carr in that situation in Oakland. My girl, Rebe, with a super chat. Thank you so much. Where have you been? You've been hiding. Don't do that. Don't leave me like that. She says, living again. Leveling up is a grind. I understand. Totally get that. And sometimes when you grinding and you got your head down, you lose track of time. And the time around you, and I said this on one of my podcasts, time waits for no man or woman. And so you look up and you take a breath and you're like, whoa, 3 months have passed. Here we are, week 13. It's good to see you though, Rebe. She says, I'm always watching you, Lou. You already know. I'm glad to know that, and I'm glad to hear from you. Glad that the leveling up is going well. Keep that up, man. I love to hear positive things like that. Good to hear from you, and thank you so much for the super chat. Big John 512 says, if the Redskins end up with the number 4 pick, who would you pick? Well, it just depends on how the draft board kind of sets up. You know, who are the teams that are in front of us? You know, you got to, I don't really like talking about who I would take unless it's going to be a quarterback, which the Redskins are, or Chase Young. Because you got to see what the Redskins do in free agency. You got to see if they get rid of Bruce Allen. You got to see if a new guy comes in and goes nuts in free agency. Then all of a sudden, all of the needs that you think you have, you don't have. So you got to see what is done in free agency, because right now we sit here, we need a left tackle. That's probably where I would go with number 4 overall. If you told me that the Redskins end up with the 4th pick, as of right now, you're not going to get an elite left tackle in free agency. That just doesn't happen. Those guys don't grow on trees, and teams don't allow them to walk. So you probably have to draft one. So that's probably where I would go. The elite left tackle prospect at 4, Andrew Thomas from Georgia. As of right now, that's the guy that everyone's eyeballing. Maybe he ends up not even being the first tackle off the board. Most likely he will be, and that's probably where I would go if I'm the Redskins and I end up with the 4th pick in the draft. But then again, you never know what could happen in free agency, what could shake loose, and what the Redskins could decide to do. So anyway, that's what I would do as of right now. But again, I'd have to see how free agency went before I'd be able to make that kind of decision right off the bat. Gregory Lightbody says, what potential do you see in Kelvin Harmon? I love Kelvin Harmon. Think that this guy has the ability to be a number 2 in this league. I've seen a lot of what he's done this season. I've seen the growth and the maturation. I also saw him at NC State a ton. I know what this guy is capable of, and I love what he's doing. And he has a rapport with Dwayne Haskins. As Dwayne said at the podium on Sunday, look, I grew up with Kelvin. I knew him since high school. We used to work out in the offseason together. So I know Kelvin Harmon, and they have a great relationship, and they got a great rapport, and you're seeing it play itself out on the football field. Niners fan says, how about Fred Warner, Lou? That man is special. I was gushing over Fred Warner yesterday, and it's funny because everyone wants to talk about, the 2 Devons, Bush and White from the past year's draft, and how if you want one of those types of guys, you got to take them early in the draft because they usually aren't around in the 2nd, 3rd round. Fred Warner, if I'm not mistaken, was a 3rd round pick out of BYU about two years ago. I think this is his 2nd year in the league. He was a rookie last year, and this is his 2nd year. Fred Warner, if you didn't watch the game yesterday, shame on you, first of all. But second of all, Fred Warner's coverage. Forget about the man being a tackling machine, which he is. Led the Niners in tackles last year, is leading the team in tackles this season. But forget about that. Forget about him being a tackling machine and going sideline to sideline. His coverage skills, I think I'd put them up against any linebacker in the league right now. If you saw some of the plays he was making yesterday, I was so jealous. I was like, why can't we get a Fred Warner? Why can't we find a Jim in the 3rd round? Why can't we find a guy that can do some of those things? His coverage skills are ridiculous. Fred Warner's a beast. He blitzes. He can drop into coverage. He's a tackling machine. He's sideline to sideline. What's there not to love about Fred Warner? God, he's so good. Anyway, Gregory Lightbody says, Skins have to find a way to get a 2nd round pick for Trent Williams. They'll at least get that. I want a 1st round pick. They're more likely than not going to get a 2nd round pick. I think the 1st round pick for Trent ship has sailed. They should have gotten a 1st round pick for him before the season started. They had one more opportunity to get it before the trade deadline. They squandered that opportunity. I think they're going to end up having to settle for a 2nd round pick, which is very, very unfortunate. Again, if you're in the chat discussion and you want your comment to be read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. DMV fan 123, and if you're new to the channel or to the comment section, first of all, welcome. Second of all, make sure you subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content, and make sure you're checking out the Louie T Network podcast as well, available on Stitcher, Google Music Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, and of course, the website louietnetwork.net. All right, back to the comment section. DMV fan 123 says, who is your favorite wide receiver core in the league right now? Interesting question. I will answer it after I take this phone call. You are on live with your man, Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
That's your boy, Tones, Protect Sports. What's good, Lou?
What's going on, Tones?
Same old. Just trying to keep up with the content. Trying to be like you, big dog. Trying to like the big dog over there.
Hey, you doing your thing, man. Keep it up, bro. Keep it up.
Look, big bro. Appreciate you.
Rep that squad
All
though.
right. Rep our squad, man. ATTR, you know what time it is. Kids Nation, you know. Two straight dubs after that Jets dud at home 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Won two straight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm conflicted. I'm happy, but I'm not happy. It's just
Yeah.
weird.
I
I'm happy we won these two games, but oh god.
I totally get it,
We're
bro.
gonna be here.
I talked about it on the Redskins nightly news tonight, man. Like you got to be careful what you wish for on this thing because, you know, it's almost like a catch-22. You know, damn if you do, damn if you don't. And I think we all know what we want to happen, but winning doesn't help that happen.
Hell no, it don't. It don't help it at all. I'm gonna hear Bruce. We're mighty close, guys.
Hey, exactly.
Number one pick, dumbass.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, man. But I just want to rep the squad real quick, man. Want to give a shout out to my big dog Louie T. Always bringing us this dope content on YouTube, man. My favorite football YouTuber, man. Shout out to you, big dog, man. You keep up what you're doing. And next thing you know, man, you might be hitting 50K if you know it, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate you, man.
First,
And you keep doing your work over there too.
Subscribers. We don't know, but you making that happen, dude.
Hey, appreciate you, man. You keep doing your thing over there as well, man. Y'all check my man out at Protect Sports over there on YouTube. Give him a shot over there and subscribe to his channel. Hey, Tones, take it easy, bro.
Yeah, bro.
That's my man, Protect Sports, man. Check his channel out on YouTube. He's doing some good things over there, especially if you're a Redskins fan. But he's not just Redskins. You know, he's fixing teams. He's fixing the Bengals, fixing the Redskins, and Dolphins and all these teams, man. So check his content out, man. He's got a couple series going on, and that man is putting in work over there. Y'all give him a shout over there and give him a chance. So DMV fan 123 asked, who is your favorite wide receiver core in the league right now? So there are some really good wide receiving cores in the league. I think you have to start though in Tampa with Mike Evans and what is my man? Both of them over 1,000 yards receiving already this season, which is crazy. We still got a whole month of football left. But what is my man's name from Penn State? Oh God. Godwin. Godwin and Mike Evans in Tampa right now. You'll be hard pressed to find a better tandem than those boys right now. What they're bringing to the table, nobody's messing with them right now. They're dangerous and they're tearing shit up. And so I think you have to start there with 2,000-yard receivers already. And we still got plenty of time left this season for them to probably get well over 1,200 apiece, which I can't tell you the last time we've seen two receivers on the same team do that. As I continue to think, let's see. Let's see. I think when healthy, Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and Randall Cobb are maybe as good as a threesome as you'll find in this league when healthy. They're dangerous, and that's why Dak Prescott is having the kind of season he's having in Dallas. You know, forget about the 6-6 record. Dak Prescott is playing at a ridiculous level, and if they were better, he'd be in the MVP discussion. So that's another receiving group that I like. Let's see. Minnesota, obviously, with Thielen and Diggs, when they're healthy, that's a dangerous tandem there, but they haven't been healthy this season. So that's why they don't come up first in that discussion. But same thing could be said with Kansas City. You know, really, Tyreek Hill and then anybody is a hell of a group. But Tyreek Hill, Samuel Watkins, we saw what DeMarcus Robinson was doing earlier in the season when everybody was hurt and he was carrying the load. They've got some receivers there, and then you add in Kelsey, but he's not a receiver, but you know what he brings to the table too. So that's another group. Obviously, Julio and Calvin Ridley, when they're right, they're a nasty tandem in Atlanta. But for me right now, Tampa Bay's tandem of Godwin and Evans number one in the league right now. And then I think Dallas's trio of Cooper, Gallup, and Cobb are a distant second. And then I think right there you start trickling in your Thielen, Diggs, and Julio and Ridley combinations. And then you kind of after that you kind of go from there. So that's what I see right now. Got a call, going to take it. You're on live with your man Louie T. Who am I speaking with? Hello?
What's going on, Louie? It's JP.
What's going on, JP?
I'm good. I just got off work not too long ago. It's snowing like crazy up here in New Jersey.
Lord. Hey, be safe out there, man. Rep your squad.
Yep. So listen, wanted to talk a little bit about the Redskins win over Carolina yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, honestly, I did not see us beating Carolina. I thought it would be close, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very surprised that we hung in there in that second half. We were able to put up 29 points on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that surprised me most.
Yeah. I mean, nobody saw that coming. I can't think of too many fans that anticipated the Redskins performing as well as they did, especially after the start to the game. I mean, you fall down 14-0 at the blink of an eye. It seemed like an ass whooping was on the horizon. And for them to not only stay the course, continue to run the football, even though they were down 14 points, but then battle their way back and end up scoring 29 unanswered. I mean, no one saw that coming. You couldn't have seen it
absolutely
coming.
not. And so I think the one thing that stood out the most in yesterday's game was the way the run game played and the way the offensive line was able to open up them. When we're able to get the run game going, that opens up the air attack a little bit more, and Haskins will be able to make his reads and his throws and being able to find guys open.
Mm-hmm.
That Kelvin Harmon dude is something else. I think we may have a legit number one wide receiver on our football team.
Yep. Well, I don't think he's a number one, but I think he's definitely a number two. I like him a lot, man. I think he's got some real talent. But I knew that, and I tried to explain that to you guys when we drafted him. I said, we got to steal here in the 6th round. Like, I had a 3rd round grade on Kelvin Harmon, and for him to have dropped to the 6th round, I was shocked. So the guy has talent, and you're starting to see a little bit of that now as he's getting more opportunities.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was actually one of those Kelvin. I didn't watch a whole lot of NC State football, but I knew he had talent, and I heard a lot about him. I heard that I was hearing that he could have been off the board late 1st round, is what I heard. He's that good because he's that good.
Yeah, the problem was he didn't have the speed. He wasn't going to be a 1st round pick, and that's why I downgraded him to a 3rd round, because honestly, I liked his skill set so much. I thought he could be a mid-2nd round pick, but I had issues with, concentration drops, which we've seen this season at times with him, and then also the lack of speed. He didn't have the ability to separate with speed because that just wasn't in his arsenal. And so I thought that's what would knock him down. I didn't expect it to knock him all the way down to the 6th round, but hey, one team's trash is another team's treasure. Everyone else decided to pass on him. The Redskins got him in the 6th round, and I couldn't be happier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Man, how about that guy, man? That guy.
Yeah. That's right.
That man literally had the game of his life yesterday.
Man, he was awesome. And this is what we've been waiting for as Redskins fans. We've been waiting on Darius Geis to show up, stay healthy first and foremost, but show up and show out. And he did yesterday.
Yeah, and and I knew he had talent. I watched him in LSU.
Right.
He was a complimentary back. When we had Fournette on the team,
right,
and he got hurt, and we had Geis. Geis filled in nicely, and he's one of those guys that can come in. He's an X factor to me. He's one of those guys like, hey, I can come in, I can lay the beating on some of these defenses. I can come in and lay the beating on these defenses. So, I mean, the kid has talent, and I still have hope for Haskins. I haven't given up. I know the 13 for 25 passing yesterday didn't really help his case, but he did. He showed you saw the throws. I saw this kid take a couple of shots downfield, and the kid's got an arm. He's got a rifle for an arm, and that's one thing that stands out about him is that he can launch it.
Yeah, I thought he was actually pretty solid, especially considering the offensive line wasn't great yesterday and the drops. I thought he actually played well. The numbers don't do him any justice, but if you watch the game, you understand the context of those numbers. So I actually thought it was a pretty solid start for him. And he did a good job of managing the game and gave them a chance to win, and that they did. So I thought it was a solid start for Haskins. But anyway, JP, appreciate you chiming in and repping your squad, man. Look forward to chopping it up with you later on tonight after the Monday night game.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Help the Redskins.
And no doubt. All right, let's get to some more comments before we get out of here. Brian Herrera says, what do you think about J.J. Watt coming back before the season ends? That's crazy. It won't be before the season ends. They think he could be back in time for the playoffs, though. And I'm not sure he would be back for a wild card weekend game, but if they were to advance to, say, the divisional round, I think you could see J.J. Watt back, and that is crazy considering that generally guys don't come back in the same season from a torn pec muscle. You tear your pec, generally we will see you next year. So that's crazy that he could be back, and they could use him, especially after seeing what I saw from them yesterday with the guy that they got in the trade for Clowney, doing what he did, and then, Whitney Merciless, if he can get back to what he was earlier in the season, you could have something, man. You could have something. Just missed a call. Mel W says, how do you feel about the cornerback tandem of Dunbar and Moreau? Right now, they're playing well, but, it's a small sample size. You know how I feel about Dunny. I told you guys about Dunny before the season started, so I don't have any doubts about what he's capable of. I got to see more of Moreau. It looks good. It's been really good the last couple of weeks. We're going to get a real good sense of how good he is this week versus Aaron Rodgers, okay? We're going to really find out how good Dunny and Moreau are against Aaron Rodgers. You're on live with your man, Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
Yo, Louie, this is Indigo, man. What's going on?
What's up, man? How you doing, man? Rep your squad.
Congratulations on the win, bro.
Hey, man, I appreciate that.
Congratulations on the win.
I appreciate that. Y'all had a big hand in that, man. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, that's why I had to call in, man. Your Redskins was repping their squad. But listen, man, we done took one injury too many to the skull, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
With no deep tackles, your boy Geis and AP just had a field day. I never seen, man, every time the offense came back on the field, your offensive line just was running out there ready to eat.
Yeah. I talked about that yesterday. I said, look, y'all have taken injury after injury, whether it was Poe, early in that game, you had Gerald McCoy get injured. Yep. Then late in the game, I saw Vernon Butler limp off the field. It was injury after injury after injury. I'm like, man, if you want to know why they're getting gutted, it's not hard to connect the dots.
Yeah, man. And then you guys headhunted on my man Greg Olsen, man, and that was a wrap.
He didn't mean to do that. All right.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, nobody ever means it until, my man gets a clear advantage. But, man, listen, yeah, man. You remember the basement from Winners and Losers, man? Can I sit next to you in the basement, bro?
No, I don't do basements in Winners and Losers, brother.
I'm just saying, we gonna be right there next to you guys now, man.
Oh, you talking about Carolina? That's what you talking about? Yeah. Oh yeah, man. It's plenty of space down here, man. I had invited I was talking to my man that liked the Chargers, and I was like, bro, you left us last year, man. We knew you'd be back though. I saved you a seat, man. There's plenty of seats down here, man. Plenty of room. Yeah. I got Atlanta over here. You know Atlanta, right? That's family, right? Your cousins and them, they right over there.
Fall in their seat, man.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's plenty of cats down there. Come on down here and mingle, man. You got Cincinnati over there, Jets over there, Dolphins over there. You got the Broncos, Chargers. Man, come on down here and stop playing, man.
Up there, man. They sipping the drinks and smell like good. They got wings, the room with the girls, all that stuff going on. We just like,
hey, look, man, it's plenty more of that to go around, man. A lot of losing juice down here, man. Come and get you a sip, bruh.
That's crazy, man. It's over, Lou.
Hey, and let me ask you this. I got you here. Is Ron done? I think Ron's done.
Bruh, I hate it to say it, man. They might give him one more year, but still.
Hey.
Even if they give him one more year after next year, we're looking at not a total rebuild,
Yeah.
but a partial, pretty much a half rebuild, which sucks, man, because that means it's going to take us a while to get back up there, bro. We're about to be underneath the water for a while, and that's hard to see, man. That's just so hard to see, man. We were there for a while, man. We had a good run.
Why do you feel that way though?
Is over, man.
Why do you feel that way? I feel like you have a lot of young, talented football players on your team.
Man, let me tell you. Let me start from the top. Marty Herney, man. He just couldn't get the right guys in there, man. I mean, the offensive line, too many rookies and injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive line, they didn't get enough talent on the line. I mean, the trenches is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Got a new owner that pretty much been saying he can't deal with mediocrity.
Right.
He don't have his own people in there.
Yeah.
I mean, all those guys are Jerry Richardson guys. I mean, and Cam, you know, start with Cam. He's up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Kuechly. I mean, without the defensive line, Luke Kuechly is an average linebacker. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Luke Kuechly,
Mm-hmm.
but man, if he don't have nobody eating up blockers, man, he's just as average as the next guy. So I mean, there's a lot of cats on 1-year deals. I mean, it's time to blow it up, bro. And I'm hate to see it,
Yeah.
but it's about to happen. I just want to get everybody listening a heads up, bro. I don't see any other way.
Wow. That's some heavy stuff, man.
You telling me, man? I mean, Panther Nation is ready to put Ron Rivera on a stake, man, and burn him, man. And here's the thing with Ron. Ron never got the right coaching staff in there too.
Yeah.
Especially on the defensive end. Once Sean McDermott left,
Yeah.
that was the end of the Carolina defense, bro.
Right.
He never got anybody in to replace him.
Yeah, and
I mean,
you know
Steve
what was
Wilson,
crazy?
Then they got
Yep.
this Eric Washington dude, which was a line. I mean, they never really. And he's supposed to be a defensive coach, right?
Yeah. Right.
And that all fell on him, and he couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're a defensive coach and can't get it done, your team is falling apart, I mean, it might be time to clean house, man.
Yeah, it could be, man. That is crazy. Yeah, that is crazy.
And like I said, Kyle Allen definitely is not the future.
Look, I tried to tell anybody that would listen. You tried to tell them that too, and hopefully they're seeing it now. I won't. I'm not gonna just cast the man aside, but I can just tell you this: he's not better than Cam Newton. So.
Yeah, and you know what was crazy, bro? I don't know if you saw it, but on that very last play when we was trying to get that touchdown,
Man, Jarius Wright was wide open. Jarius Wright was wide open. You know what? On the pick that he threw, Christian McCaffrey was wide open.
In the flat. I mean, stuff like that.
Wide open.
I know you're a young quarterback, second year, pretty much a rookie year, man, but we gave y'all that game with a silver platter, man.
You did, man. I told you. I appreciate it, bro. Couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, well, listen, I guess two years in a row, man. Now I know we definitely got to do something different, bro. When we getting drugged by the Skins 2 years in a row, it's time
you know what?
to
I'm sick and tired of people talking about it like, man, we lost to the Redskins. We got to blow this shit up. If you lose to the Redskins, like that's how bad. Understand, Redskins fans, how far we've fallen. Where we're the team that you can't lose to, and if you do, it's the sky's falling. All right,
Hey,
we're that team now.
Disrespect, though, you know what I mean? No
Hey, look, I
disrespect.
totally get it, man. Totally get it. Hey, Syndico, man, appreciate you calling in, rapping your squad, bro. Take it easy.
Yeah, man, take care.
No doubt. All right, so that's going to do it for the show tonight, man. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys calling in, all the comments. And it's Monday Night Football time. All right, Seahawks hosting the Vikings should be a dandy. We'll come back here when it's all said and done and wrap it all up on Monday Night Football overtime. You know where to find me. Anyway, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, thanks for calling in. Thanks for sending the messages in. And thanks for repping your squad. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Take care. What's going on, fam? It's your man, Louie T,